Welcome to TaNaCh Talk. I am your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode of Rabbi Tovia Singer's Let's Get Biblical Q&A, coming to you from the Holy Land. Rabbi, the man, Tovia Singer, welcome back. How are you this wonderful, wonderful day, Rabbi?
I'm doing very well. William. Been a very interesting week.
Tell me about it. Why has it been so interesting?
I would do exactly that. You pick up those cues perfectly. So as it turns out, there are probably about 150,000 Jewish people in Brazil, second largest Jewish community in Latin America. And we want to reach them with Let's Get Biblical. It's really very simple because, I remember lecturing in São Paulo years ago, and many of the people who were in my audiences needed a translator to simultaneously translate my lectures. And Baruch Hashem, there were a number of people in the audience at the time who, because they had a translator, the tshuva, left the missionary groups in Brazil. But the problem persists. Obviously, I'm not in Brazil now, and I want to have Let's Get Biblical translate into a number of languages, including Portuguese, for Brazilian Jews. São Paulo has a huge Jewish community. Rio, fairly large. So I put up a video this past Thursday telling people, look, we've got a translator hired or ready to go. We're raising this money for the translation so Brazilian Jews can finally understand Let's Get Biblical and enjoy what tens of thousands of people have enjoyed in the English-speaking world. So, when I'm speaking, I always want to show, like, here's the deal. So I actually put up very short segments. When I say short, like 8 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever, of a messianic leader in Brazil wearing a tallis, decked out completely, a kippah, but it's really a church. And he's a messianic leader in church, and he's all decked out with Jewish stuff talking about Yeshua in Portuguese. So I put it up. I put it up in the video, and in law, it's called fair use. Of course, you could do it. And so I put that up Thursday, and people were really very interested in helping Brazilian Jewry. And there are many people, Portuguese-speaking people in Brazil, who want to learn about Judaism. There are many, many Jews in Brazil who don't know they're Jewish, or who being Jewish is a huge secret in their family. Why? Because they fled to Brazil to escape persecution. Jews have been in Brazil since the 17th century, long time. What happens? Saturday night, I, check the computer to see what's going on, and the missionaries in Brazil did a takedown, meaning they had my YouTube video come down because they claimed that it was a copyright infringement. It was so not. It was so fair use. Fair use means that I'm using a small segment and I'm criticizing it. So they just did what they can. Now, our lawyers are all over it. But they want, this is the key, they want to prevent people from knowing what they're doing. Their Messianic church looks like a synagogue, exactly like a synagogue. And it's like they don't want anyone to mess with that. And this exposes it. This, you turn on the lights and, everything, runs underneath the washing machine. And that's what's happened with them. So they took it down. Do you know, I just say this, missionaries attack me constantly. Okay? I mean, they could deal with me in two ways. They can either respond to what I'm saying, or they can just make up stuff, right? But they take my videos constantly, take segments, whatever, out of context, whatever they're doing. I never done a takedown. Why? Because I believe that the merit of what I'm saying is strong enough to persuade someone if they just look it up in the original text. I don't need to use takedowns or crazy stuff like that. Do you know how many people are out there who hate the Jewish religion, who hate the Jewish faith, the God of Israel? Now, they'll tell you they love the God of Israel, but they're missionaries who really are very antagonistic towards the Jewish faith. I don't do that. Why? Because there's no reason to do that. I've got nothing to hide. Like, I haven't had a thought that I haven't published somewhere, right? And I don't need to use that. Like, there's no reason to have to use violence when you can just persuade someone by presenting the text. People can then look it up for themselves. I do hope that our viewers, learn Hebrew. I'm always after the people who watch the show and saying, learn Hebrew, learn the original. Why? Because I want to empower you. I don't want you to have to rely on me. So anyway, so that's the deal. So I actually produced another video for the meantime, until the video will be restored, talking about how important it is for Let's Get Biblical to be produced in Portuguese. We do want to move ahead with Spanish as well. Dutch, we're already moving ahead with that, and all kinds of other languages. We want people around the world to know about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to understand why Judaism does not accept the Christian Messiah. I want people to know why, not because they like me or find me. No, because the Bible, because of Scripture. We want to make that accessible to them. So it's been a very, very interesting few days.
That is very exciting to see that your books are getting translated or has a need to be translated in all these other religions. That's a beautiful thing. So
very, very important.
Bezrat Hashem, you will have everything that you need to get that accomplished, no doubt. No doubt.
Right.
Okay, so we will go ahead and take this first call. You're well live on the air. Please tell us your name and where you are calling from.
Hi, this is Charles from North Carolina. I have a question for Rabbi Tovia Singer. In one of the denominations of Christianity, it says that the first mention of the Messiah is found in Genesis chapter 13, verse 16, where God says that He will put an enmity between your offspring and hers,
315.
and that He will crush your head and you will strike his heel. Do you agree that this is a reference to the Messiah? If not, can you please tell me where the first clear reference to the Messiah is in the Old Testament, and in what context was such an idea of Messiah? How was that developed? Thank you very much.
Cool. Go ahead and hang up now, Tony, for your answer. Subby Genesis 3:15. I think I probably just stumbled on it. Hey, I'm learning, man. I'm learning.
I raised you well.
You did.
Very good.
Yes, you did.
What did I do? We should switch places. I'll be out of a job soon.
No. There's only one. That's one right. King Tovia.
That's true. Have you well trained?
Very good. Very good. Take it away.
So it's Genesis 3:15, and that's describing the first sin and the first punishment in the Garden of Eden. God approaches man, Adam, and Chava. Chava is going to get her name very shortly at the end of the chapter. And the serpent, and go like, what did you do? You ate from the fruit of a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And everyone's blaming on everyone else. That's what happens. Just so you have a series of like Adam goes the woman goes the serpent. So it reverses back, and then God then addresses each one in reverse. So in Genesis 3, verse 14, so God said to the serpent, because you did this, so you're most cursed among all the animals, and you'll crawl on your belly and eat dust all the day of your life. And what is conveyed there is that the serpent is like Egypt. Egypt never needs to pray. Why? Because they don't need rain. Why? Because they have a Nile, an endless source of irrigation. Israel, the Holy Land, we really need rain. And we're not doing great this year. Last year, amazing. More rain than ever. This year, we really do need to pray for rain. But the land of Israel forces you to pray. So number one, the serpent, you're never going to need God. That's what's really going on here. Moreover, you try to affect an affection between you and the woman. So here's the deal. I will put enmity between you and the woman. You is the serpent, the Nachash, and the woman, between your offspring and her, in brackets, offspring, and hers. So, so therefore, there'll be this hatred between man and the serpent. Could this explain why most people have a visceral response, a visceral hatred of snakes? You know, I remember as a kid going to the zoo, right? And you'd pass by the cage with the gorilla, the lion, you're just trying to get its attention, right? And you're going, how beautiful, right? But then when we went into to the snake house, whatever it's called, the reptile house, that was always like the nightmare house. Why? Because it was full of snakes. And I was much more frightened of those snakes than I was of the lion and tiger. Like, lion and tiger look cute, but the snakes just look somehow. Now, there's a hatred. There's some aversion. Now, why do some people love snakes? I have no idea. Don't ask me that question. But I used to think to myself, I hope there's no way that the snake can get out of these cages. Now, in truth, if you had to be locked up in a cage with either a tiger or a snake, you really would rather be in a cage with a snake. Very likely you're going to walk out of that alive. Very unlikely you're going to walk out of a... But the tiger doesn't produce that. It produces marvel, intrigue, beautiful. Okay, seriously. So, of course, but the serpent, of course, represents sin, of course. The serpent represents that which seduces man away from God. Because the way a serpent attacks is at the feet, where you're not looking. You know, there are places in Australia, they say about Australia that I don't remember, but like anything can kill you. Anything alive can kill you. And Australian people go in the, whatever it's called, the outback, or they wear special long boots that snakes can't bite through, right? Because that's the nature of sin. It kind of seduces you in. And in fact, if you think this is a homily, it isn't. Because in the next chapter, in Genesis chapter 4, verse 6 and 7, God there is having a conversation with Cain and saying that sin lying by the door, you're the object of his desire. He's hiding behind the door. Like, why is he hiding behind the door? Why isn't he in the kitchen? Well, hiding behind the door is he comes at you when you don't expect it, when you're vulnerable. You walk in, you don't realize what's waiting for you behind the door. You can destroy it. You can conquer over sin. That's very important, because that's completely antithetical to anything that the church teaches. Moving on here, here's what's going to be the deal. The deal is that he can crush your head, because God is addressing the serpent here. Don't let anyone fool you on this, because go from Genesis 3, verse 14. He's speaking to the serpent. He says, man, he will crush your head, and, he will crush your head means man will crush the head of the serpent, and you will strike his heel, what I explained to you, okay? So now, biting the heel will cause a wound. Crushing the head of the serpent is a deadly blow, always fatal. So there's nothing here about Mashiach. Nothing here about the Messiah. However, I was just on Jaffa Road today, major street in Jerusalem, and I met these two nice young fellows, missionaries. They recognized me. And we started up a whole conversation, and they threw this passage right at me, Genesis 3:15. Like, why don't you believe that's talking about Jesus? Like, why would you? So the argument they advanced was, well, women don't have seed. It's a man that has a seed. A woman has an ovum. That's where the argument goes. So who could the seed of the woman be? It must be a woman that doesn't have a seed. Was not intimate with anyone, and that can only be Christ. Now, I asked them, do you speak Hebrew? And they said, no. I said, I know. It's a problem for you, because in biblical Hebrew, your seed doesn't mean like sperm. It means, it can mean that, but it can mean your offspring. For instance, Genesis chapter 16, verse 10, there, the angel is speaking to Hagar, promising her that she will have a great nation that will come out of her. Vayomer lo, that's the feminine, Malach Hashem, a angel of the Lord said to her. It's very important. He's speaking to Hagar, who's in a really bad predicament. Okay? Arba es zarech. I will greatly multiply your seed. Okay? He's speaking to the woman. V'lo yisofer meirov, and they will be so great in number that they won't be, you can't even count them. But don't concentrate on that. It's the same root. Okay, zarech, zayin, resh, ayin, zera. That's all. So what missionaries will always do with this is they'll try to constrict. They do this so frequently. They try to constrict the meaning of a Hebrew root to mean only one thing that is consistent with the theology that they are espousing, and not allow any other. And they have a very easy job of doing it. It's so easy for them to do this. Why? Because their audience is made up of people who don't speak Hebrew, who don't read Hebrew. They can say anything they want to. Just use some fancy word in there that they read in a book somewhere. And it's like, wow, how did that ever happen to you? Now, this text is alluded to in Romans chapter 16, verse 20. That's the very end of the book of Romans, the most important letter of Paul. Well, essentially, what is being conveyed is that under Christ, the serpent will be destroyed, and sin and Satan will be destroyed. Now, if somebody wishes to say Genesis 3:15 is an allusion to the Messiah, if someone wants to advance that, you've then made it impossible for Jesus to be the Messiah. That means Christians mindlessly, not that they're bad people, it's just this is what they're taught. Christians mindlessly state that this is point to Jesus. But at this point to Jesus, that Jesus will crush the serpent. You remember in Mel Gibson's film, The Passion of the Christ, there's a point where, you see just the foot, Jesus' foot stamping on the snake. That scene comes from this, that Jesus crushed the snake, which is Satan. If the Messiah, if this is an allusion, an ambiguous and inference to the Messiah, it clearly is not speaking of the Messiah. The plain meaning is that man will crush the head of the serpent, and the serpent could bite the heel of man. And it's talking about your children. In fact, we're told right in the same chapter that Eve is given the name Chava because she's the mother of all mankind. That's the context. It's right there. But if I concede it all, if I say, all right, this is not a reference to the Messiah, it clearly isn't, but a person can interpret this as ultimately the role of the Mashiach is to finish this off. If somebody wants to, they could say, although clearly this passage, like the other curses we're going to see in the following passages, is referring to what mankind can do to the serpent, could destroy it, could kill it, could deliver the fatal blow. The serpent can bite at the heel of man. Okay, but if you want, and there are some Jewish sources that are not the literal pshat, but a medrash, it says that this is an allusion, a soft allusion to the Messiah. Great, I'll grant you that. It's not there. It's not explicitly there. But if you want to say it's there, you have all your problems ahead of you. Because that's exactly what Jesus didn't do. So if this passage is referring to the Messiah, fine. Then Christianity is a false religion. Why? Because Jesus didn't destroy Satan. In fact, the religion that emerged from him produced the most bloodthirsty, sinful nation in history. I mean, like the bloodiest religious war in human history was fought by Christians against Christians. Who slaughtered more? Who killed more than Christians? I mean, so Christianity, Jesus didn't do this. So let's say I concede it. It's talking about Genesis 3:15, although clearly not explicitly, it is an ambiguous foreshadowing of the Messiah. Fine. That means Jesus is the Messiah. He didn't do any of these things. Satan wasn't destroyed for believers. People in the New Testament were still tempted, and people are tempted to this day. Satan is doing fantastic. His business is doing fantastic last time I checked. Satan's not destroyed in the room. And in truth, what will happen in the Messianic age, as we see in Daniel chapter 9, that sin comes to an end. And this is what people don't stop and think about, and they should. If this is Mashiach, then Jesus can't be the Mashiach, because he didn't do any of these things. Of course, the second coming. Well, if it was second coming, then David Koresh can make a second coming. Anybody could be the Messiah. That wonderful claim, brilliant claim. Now, you asked the question, what's the first reference to the Mashiach that is explicit in TaNaCh? That's clear. That's in the fourth oracle of Bilam in Numbers chapter 24, verse 17. So Bilam, originally the plan was that Bilam was going to curse the children of Israel, but he can't curse what God doesn't curse. And in 24:17, you have a very clear, it's 18:19, continues on, but I see him, but not now, behold him, but not near. A star will come out of Jacob, a scepter, there it is, a scepter will rise out of Israel, and he will crush the foreheads of Moab and the skulls of, and now it goes on to say, just crush Amalek, crush Edom, the whole thing. Okay, so this king emerging from the children of Israel, the context here of multiple blessings upon Israel, about how their deliverance in the Exodus and the final ultimate victory of Mashiach. Okay, so I would say that Numbers 24:17, the emergence of a King Mashiach who will destroy the enemies. And I plead with you to consider this, and I want to talk to the Christians for a moment. In every one of these cases where it's speaking of the Messiah, in the passages you love to quote, it always describes the Messiah as destroying the enemies of the children of Israel, always. At the end of Isaiah chapter 11, right here in Numbers chapter 24, in Psalm 2, Psalm 2 is talking about David, but ultimately the role is to destroy the enemies. Psalm 110, like one of the most quoted verses in the entire Christian Bible, is about that I'll make your enemies your footstool. Didn't do any of that. Okay, so if we concede it all, then all your work is ahead of you. These passages demonstrate that Jesus can't possibly be the Messiah. Thank you for your question.
Yep, that would be pretty much a slam dunk there. So thank you for that. Some things are just humorous to me now. That used to be very serious, but now I look back and it's different now. All right, so Color, you are live on the air. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, this is Dan. I'm calling from Uniontown, Pennsylvania.
Welcome, Dan. Go ahead with your question.
Go ahead.
Okay. I remember listening to a prior show where you were talking about Daniel 9 and how the 62 and 7 years or weeks were all mushed together. And one of your defenses or your arguments against the Christian thought of it was I don't know that it's necessarily all that serious of an argument against it, but was that you said who counts like that in 62 and 7.
Yes, that's right.
And,
No one counts like that.
I was reading
Right.
Genesis chapter 23, and I saw in there that it said Sarah's years were 100, 7, and 20. And I was
Right.
kind of wondering why it's broken up that way, and if it's just counting different parts of her life of what she did, or
Can I
why-
keep you
why it's
on?
broken up that way.
I mean, stay with me. Don't run.
Go
okay?
ahead.
In English, you speak English, right? I mean, you speak. I'm not being silly. So, how do you say 127? Like,
Okay,
in
you're,
English.
you're still there? Can you hear the rabbi?
I can't hear the rabbi.
Okay, 1 second. I'll fix that right now. Hang on.
Like, fix it. Stay with me on this one.
Okay, can you hear the rabbi now?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Good. So, question is, in English, like, how do you say 127?
127.
I'm not. Yeah, there you go. Well, that's how you say 127. Do you say 110 and 17? No. So that's exactly the case. You using a base 10 system, and that's exactly what goes on in Genesis 23 verse 1. Vayiyu chai Sarah, mea shana, 100, ve'esrim shana, and 20, ve'sheva shonim. Bingo, 127. I mean, you break it up into base 10. This is what the church wants you to believe. And thank you for your call.
Go ahead and hang up now, and you can finish listening for your answer, okay?
The church wishes in Daniel chapter 9, verse, I'm so thankful for these questions. In Daniel chapter 9, verse 25, okay, context, the angel Gabriel is speaking to Daniel, and he's conveying a time period. Now, what he's really saying that there's a period of 7 weeks after which is 49 years, because it's 7 weeks of years, an anointed prince will give the command to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. Okay, so Veseda Vesaskel min mighty dover, from going forth the word lahashiv livnei Yerushalayim ad Moshiach nogid, to rebuild Yerushalayim until an anointed prince, Shavuim Shiva, okay, 7 weeks, okay, 7 weeks, that's 49 years. Now there's another anointed one that's going to continue for 434 years, or 62 weeks. Then it continues. There happens to be in the snachta there, a semicolon, but that semicolon, full disclosure, is a Masoretic device from the 9th century. Okay, so that's not in the original text. That's what I want to show. So I don't want to use the snachta, but the snachta is there. And biblical scholars who are Christians who ignore that are not you're not helping your parishioners when you don't mention that. Okay. Now it continues. V'shvuim shishim ushnayim, and then for 62 weeks, okay, shishim ushnayim. What's shishim? 60, ushnayim, and 2. I mean, how do you say 62? Shishim ushnayim. That's all it says. So for 62 weeks, you see, there's no break of the base 10. Never. You never would say 69, but in any language in the world, by saying 7, 60, and 2. Like, which language? In French, you wouldn't say it that way. You say 69. In German, 69. In English, 69. You wouldn't say 7, 60, and 2. No language. That's made up, because what's happened is it's a scam. It's a scam. You're going to the spiritual. I was going to say cleaners. You're going to a scam house. You're just going to get cheated. You're going to get lied to. Okay. So you do not. So what's not being conveyed here is that 7 and 62 is one unit. They can't have it as 2 separate periods. Why not? Because there are 2 messiahs, anointed ones, who come into view here. 2, one after 7 weeks and another one after a subsequent 62 weeks. Now, how do you know I'm telling you the truth? because I'm throwing a tantrum? No. Go to the very next verse. Look at 9:20. Like, if you have any doubt I'm telling you the truth, if you're sitting here, let's say you like me. Look, I want to be liked. Who doesn't? I'm not crazy. But please, don't trust me. So look at the next verse, Daniel 9, verse 26. Okay? What does it say there? Va'achrei hashvuim shishim ushnayim yikares Mashiach ve'en lo. It says, and after the 62 weeks, an anointed one will be cut off and he'll have nothing. It doesn't say after the 7, 60, and 2. Please listen to me, sweetheart. If you're a Christian, please listen. Look, whatever you do is between you and God. I don't want to say it. I was going to say you're being lied to, you're being scammed, but your pastor probably doesn't know any better. Because this is what your pastor learned in Dallas Theological. This is what your pastor learned in Fuller. This is what your pastor learned in Moody. I'll never get invited to those universities again to speak. This is what your pastor has taught in the Philadelphia College of Bible. I've lectured there. Okay? In Langhorne, Pennsylvania. Nice campus. They'll never teach you this. And they're now, I want to say they're lying. They're not. I'm guessing. I'm trying to be very charitable here. They don't know enough to be lying. That's the truth. Most pastors, their knowledge of the Hebrew language it's not even flimsy. It's just virtually non-existent. They maybe can read letters. I mean, they have to take a couple of courses to get but they're not. They don't know Hebrew. So I don't want to say your pastor's lying to you. He's lying. He's not telling you the truth. Does he know any better? I don't know. If they have a PhD in biblical Hebrew, they know the truth. They know the truth. And you know what I'm talking about. They know the MS. Why? Because if you're getting a PhD in biblical Hebrew, then you've got to know. This is nothing. What I'm sharing here is nothing. This is like rudimentary third grade Hebrew. This is nothing. This is something that an 8-year-old Orthodox kid in yeshiva would. This is nothing. This is nothing. Don't be impressed with me. So you're being scammed. You're being scammed. So Genesis 23, verse 1. That's perfect. Who are you? I love you. It's perfect, right? Sarah is 127, right? Not 113 and 14. No, nowhere it says that. It's always a base of 10. Don't let anybody scam you. And what's happening here, and I want to review this one point because I need you to follow with me on this. Really, it's all at stake. I mean, right now, it's very possible there are Christians, if you're following me, you will repent. You will renounce idolatry. You will leave the church leaving skid marks. Look at verse 25. I'm just... V'seid v'saskel min moitze davel l'hashem livnei Yerushalayim ad Mashiach noged shivuyim shiva, 7 weeks. From the time of the destruction of the first temple, how long did it take for Cyrus the Great to emerge? Who gives the command to restore and rebuild Jerusalem? A half a century. That's 7 weeks, 49 years. Who is called God's Mashiach? Cyrus. Where? Isaiah. Whoa. 45 verse 1. Not kidding. What's the context? Singer, they told me at my church that you're a liar. No, I'm not. Please look it up for yourself. See Isaiah 44 verse 28. That's the last verse of 44 and 45 1. Don't listen to them when missionaries tell you Singer's a liar. Look it up for yourself. You're going to have to face the God of Israel, not these missionaries. Don't listen to them at the Assemblies of God. Don't listen to them at Jews for Jesus. Look at the text. You got to know this, sweetheart. Why? I care. I really care about you. I know what's been done to you. I know you didn't have the opportunities I had. I want to impart that to you. So I just want to clean this all up here. So Ad Mashiach Nagid Shivuyim Shiva, 7 weeks. Stop. Now, there is a grammatical, very unambiguous grammatical feature there. There's an esnachta, okay? An esnachta was a Masoretic device, because just so you understand, the original Hebrew is just consonantal. There's no vowels, there's no punctuation, there's none of that stuff, right? So I want you to know that, because they're going to come back to you and go, the esnachta is the Masoretes from the early medieval period. That's true, but it's still, there's a semicolon there, whether you see it or not. Forget the Masoretes. You don't say 69 in any language by saying 7, 60, and 2. You just don't do that. And that's what's done. Then it goes on. V'shavuyim shishim ushnayim toshuv. What does that mean? For 60 and 2 weeks, it'll be restored. V'nivnasa, and it'll be rebuilt. Rechayv, v'charetz, uv'tzaik ho'itim. It'll be rebuilt, street and moat, but in troubled times. So there it is. And if you're still wondering, but my pastor said that you, Rabbi Singer, are a liar, right? At Jews for Jesus, they told me that you, Rabbi Singer, are the biggest liar in the world. Every day I go on YouTube and I watch people who drilled it into my head that you're a liar. If you have any doubts about what I'm saying, all you need to do is forget me and the pastor. Let's just think about the words of Gabriel as he's speaking to Daniel in chapter 9 now, verse 26. What does it say in your King James Bible? New International Version, New American Standard. Pick your version. Verse 26. If the unit is 69 weeks, 483 years, if that was the unit, then how should verse 26 begin? It should say after the 69 weeks. Or it should say, as you formulated, it should say after the 7, 60, and 2 weeks. If Rabbi Tovia Singer is telling you the truth, then what should Daniel 9 verse 26 say? It should say after the 62 weeks. Open your Bible. I don't care how big the cross is on your Bible. I don't care. You want to emerge out of this idolatry now? You want to renounce idolatry to this second? Verse 26. V'achrei hashivuim, after the weeks, shishim ushnayim, after the 62 weeks. Let's say after the 62 and 7 weeks. Bang, over, checkmate, done, goodbye, out. Right now, get on the phone, call your church and say, I'm done, I'm finished, and I want a refund. If you listen to me, if you don't want to, if you love your Jesus and he changed your life and whatever, all the story, I can't tell you. All religions have people whose lives are changed by their religions. It's just the way it is. It's not just, all religions, people stop doing drugs, people stop doing alcohol, people stop whatever they're doing, people's lives are changed, people have out-of-body experiences, people saw the Lord come to them, their prophets come, all religions, wake up. That cannot be, your personal experience cannot be an empirical source of truth. I don't care what you dreamt. You went to sleep, you had a dream. Jeremiah says, stop listening to your dreams. You're the one who's causing yourself to have these dreams. That's it. That's the end. How do you play with the game with the Bible? What kind of language is that? So there you go. I hope you understand. Those of you Christians, I hope I did not offend you. I don't think I did. Look it up for yourself. You don't need me. It's right there. One other caveat, just so you know, when you look at a King James version today, a KJV, not the New King, but the King James, you're really looking at not the 1611 version. They probably don't tell you this in your church, but the 1611 version was upgraded multiple times, not for nefarious reasons, but just the language was upgraded and the grammar was upgraded. But there's a cheat. Why? You can go online and look at the actual page of the 1611. It's not the same as the King James today. You'll be able to read it. It's Jacobean English. It's not Chaucer. It's totally readable. But what you will notice in the 1611, but you have to go to the original plates, the original one. Go online. It's there. You'll see that in the 1611 King James, 1611 version, there was a semicolon there. And it's not there today. Someone came with bleach and wiped down the crime scene. Got rid of the fingerprint. So the King James, 1611, commissioned in 1604, finished in 1611. These 47 men, members of the Church of England in good standing, they knew to put a semicolon there. And someone later on, century later, took it out. Why? Because they're playing games with you, the Christian. Thank you for your question.
Okay, so just for my clarification, I want to make sure also that this didn't get overlooked, or you might have said it, and perhaps I was not key on it. So with the mentioning of Sarah's age, it mentions 100 and then 20 and then 7. Right. So now I've heard the Midrash on that, which went in to say that the 100 had a certain significance, so did the 20 and so the 7, which would make sense. But the issue is that the Christians are conflating Daniel 9's 70 weeks, but regarding Sarah, they should be conflated because she was 127 years old, or they should still be read separately. Could you just address that real quick?
All the Bible is using a base 10. Does everyone know what that means? Base 10, right? Y is not important here, but it's a base. We all use a base 10 in basic numbers. If we're using feet, so there's 12 inches in a foot. But when we're counting numbers, it's a base 10, okay? Base 10 is really arbitrary. So it's always so if it's in a base 10, how would you say 127 in English or Hebrew or in French, in any language? 127 in German. That's how you say, so that's a base 10, 127. Okay. You would not say 103 and 10 or 20 and 4. You wouldn't do that because you're going to a base 10. It's just, do you understand, William, what I'm saying?
Yes. So furthermore, that means literally that Daniel 9's 70 weeks has to be separate, is what you're saying.
Right. There are two anointed ones there. But once there are two anointed ones, Christianity falls apart.
Yeah, that's true.
That means there's one anointed one who comes after 7 weeks. Okay? That's Cyrus. The second anointed one is the high priest or the priesthood, which comes to an end. What does it mean the priesthood comes to an end? And Ve'enlo, there's just nothing left. What does that mean? The temple is destroyed. And the last verse divides up that last week into two parts for a half a week. What's the half a week? It's 3.5 years before destruction of the second temple. What was that? 66, when the war with Rome began. It's all very simple. So you have two anointed ones that are separated by 483 years, right? One after first 49 years, there's Cyrus. And notice he's called the Mashiach Magid, an anointed prince. That means he's royal. The second guy, the second Mashiach, is not called prince. Why? Because he's not. He's a Kohen. You understand? Be very careful. One thing for you, the listener, so I don't want you to have to sort of cover everything here. The word Mashiach appears in TaNaCh 39 times. It's never referring to the Mashiach. Okay? That term, referring to the Mashiach as Mashiach, is post-biblical. In TaNaCh, all sorts of people are called Mashiach. Don't let that fool you. If you don't know that, you are fried. I mean, you'd have to trust me a lot, and I don't want you to do that. So you need to park this in your head. Now we say the Messiah, the Mashiach. In TaNaCh, if we can go back in a time machine, 2,700 years, so we would then land in the Assyrian Empire, and we would be in Jerusalem, where I am now. And I'd walk up to someone and I'd say, where's the Mashiach? What would someone ask you? Which Messiah are you referring to? Who? There are thousands of people who would qualify with that name. Why? Because every priest is a Mashiach. The king, Hezekiah, was a Mashiach, was anointed. Okay? Be very careful. Now, when we say Messiah, in our time, in the modern, we mean the Messiah. But it's a different lexicon. And let me tell you, if you didn't hear what I just said now, if you're a Christian, I don't even know how you'll ever get out. I don't know how you'll get out of the church if you don't have the information I've just shared. And that's why the word Mashiach appears anointed, appears more frequently in Leviticus than any other, because Leviticus is about my family, the priests. And then what the Christian Bibles do, please look it up. Please look it up. Go to the NIV, the King James. They translate Mashiach as Messiah. And then crazy, that means in the 37 other places it appears, they don't translate Messiah. They translate as anointed. Go to Isaiah 45:1. And then, worse, they put a capital M in there. So it says the, and then they put a definite article, the Messiah. I want to say this to you. I've never said this to our listeners. If you're not a Christian, you don't have to listen to this. You want to listen in, fine. I concede. If you don't know what I just said, or don't understand what I just said, I don't know how you're ever going to get out. And I'm telling you, it means if you're never going back to the original Hebrew, it means you have no access to the original Hebrew, you're stuck with the Bible published by the Church of England. I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know how you're going to escape this mess. Because the word Mashiach in TaNaCh does not mean the Mashiach. We now refer to the end times heir of the house of David as the Mashiach. The Bible, TaNaCh, doesn't do that at all. Cyrus could be called the Mashiach. So if you don't, I'm talking to you from my heart. I'm being straight with you. If you cannot understand what I'm saying, if you don't integrate what I just said, and look it up, please don't trust me. Please don't trust me. Please look up that word Mashiach anywhere else in TaNaCh and see how the King James translated. They'll translate it as anointed, not Messiah. Do that, because aren't you tired of trusting men? Aren't you like looking forward to having a faith with God without having? So I'm trying to wean you off of me, but I got to just show you this because you weren't given a Jewish education, weren't taught Hebrew. So much of what I'm saying sounds outrageous and fantastic. These are fantastic claims I'm making, okay? And the bar is very high for myself. I have to have fantastic evidence, and I'm delivering that to you. And I only ask you to do this. What am I asking you, my sweet brothers and sisters? Look it up for yourself. Okay? Thank you.
Very, very cool. So again, I'm sorry to do this to you. What does the Jewish people, how do they identify that person who will be in the messianic seat, if you will, if they don't use that word Messiah?
He's called Nasi.
Prince, King.
Nasi. Prince.
Okay, Prince. Gotcha. That's good to know.
Where? Test me. Look. This whole deal is not the religion of Rabbi Tovia Singer, okay? I'm going to just point in a direction, but I need you to be looking this up, okay? Nasi, Melech, where? Ezekiel 37, 24, and 25. Please look it up. Please look up Ezekiel 36. Nasi, Prince. He can be called David. Where? Rabbi, that's a fantastic claim. I'm making fantastic claims. I am. Because this is in yeshiva, in a Jewish school. These are not fantastic. We all know this, okay? But I know that I'm speaking to Christians or former Christians. This is all fantastic. And you need to know. You better get good evidence.
That's great.
So look it up, all right?
Awesome. Very good.
All right.
All right. Caller, you are live on the air. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from.
Michael, I'm glad to be here again.
Welcome,
Shalom, Rabbi. I'm the only Jew in my town, so I'm surrounded by Baptists and what have you. And my mom's pastor and her came to me and said that the reason Jesus was tempted in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights is because he mirrors everything from Adam and the progression of man struggle through the centuries. And I don't know how to answer that, because on one hand it kind of makes sense because I started going through the scriptures and checking the progression of how man was, and it's difficult to explain to them how to talk to them about this, because I don't understand where they're getting that from.
Rabbi, are you clear on the point of the question?
I'm not sure. I just wanted to be. I'm not.
Well,
you're asking. What are you asking? Just very clear. What are you asking?
What they're saying is Jesus was tempted because he's mirroring the struggles of man's temptation and the Jews being in the desert for 40 years, and that they were being tempted throughout the entire time. Uh, and it was coming full circle. That's why Jesus is the Messiah, because everything's full circle now. Okay.
All right. I got what you're saying.
It's very weird.
Okay, go ahead and hang up now. You can tune in for your rest of your answer, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
All right. So, I've heard Christians talk about this, and I sometimes go, I don't get it. First of all, the Christian Bible explicitly says that God cannot be tempted. James chapter 1, verse 13. So I don't know what they're talking about. Now, it is true that in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15, it says there that we explain that Jesus is the role of the high priest, for we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet he came out without sin. Okay? So the New Testament itself clashes on this. Hebrews is systematically seeking to show that Jesus is a high priest, not in the order of the Levitical order, but Melchizedek. Makes no sense at all. But if you're saying that God was tempted, like what? James had the brains to say that God cannot be tempted. Do you really think that like Jesus saw I'm trying to, like Jesus saw like a gay bar and thought he would go in. And in case you think that, and if don't go with the cancel cult, just leave me alone with that, okay? The Roman Empire had a big issue of homosexual promiscuity. We know that. We know that from huge sources. So they bathhouses with naked men went and everything went down. Okay? Tacitus, the most important historian of the Roman Empire, in his not well-known book called Germania, laments about how homosexuality was rampant in the empire among the elites, and lamented that, in fact, the Germanic tribes that would eventually take down the empire, they were hardworking men who were heterosexual. And one of the reasons why Tacitus, who was a blue-blooded Roman, born in Rome, one of the reasons he's very credible is he's very self-deprecating about the empire. Okay, so this is not like I'm not being cute. I'm not trying to do something to go to kick up the views or anything. This is a big issue. Okay, so now, no matter what your view is or who you voted for, it's clear that the Torah forbids that kind of a relationship, right? So you're saying that Jesus was really tempted to go into a bathhouse with naked men were there and all kinds of homosexual relationships are going on there? Really? You don't believe that? You don't believe that. It doesn't even make sense. If Jesus is God, how is he righteous? Like, really? Like, God just needed to eat something? It doesn't make sense. What is very attractive to the part of us that loves Jesus, because Jesus is who you will never be. This is where the scam comes in. Why does this work then? Because people are not looking at James 1:13. They're not looking at Hebrews 4:15. That's where that comes from. People feel broken, worthless, dirty, and sinful, and feel like I'll never make it. I'll never be able to stand in front of God. He's up there. I'm down here. This is so Gnostic. This is so Marcionite. This is so Manichaeist. Augustine loved this stuff. He would inject this. This is the kind of thing. The kind of thing. The world is. God is up there. He's totally inaccessible. This is so Neoplatonic. So. This is such avodah zarah. Listen to my dear brothers and sisters. I want you to know: drink clean water, not dirty, polluted water. It's time. Hashem loves you. You're creating His image. But people have trouble with that. Why? Because they grew up in a Christian world, and America is a Christian country. Okay, December 25th is a federal holiday, and Hanukkah isn't. And it's a Christian culture, and it just seeps. The stench is everywhere. I lived in Indonesia for for a long time. Okay, unfortunately, a lot of people smoke in Indonesia. Okay, you walk into a place, you can't even breathe, and the smell sticks to you. I'm very grateful to Indonesia. That was my home for years. They treated me very, very well, but too many people smoke there. So that's the whole deal. The whole deal is God cannot be tempted. It doesn't make sense. What was he tempted? Like what? Like what did he want to do? So you have now why does Hebrews say that? Because Hebrews is an early book. It's written. The book of Hebrews is written about the year 64. That means it's older than the Gospels. Okay, what I'm saying about Hebrews is very mainstream. If you open your book of Hebrews, it obviously I was going to say a Christian Bible. That's the date. Why is not important, but it's written in the early 60s. Okay, so the Christology was not highly developed yet. You didn't have the prologue of John yet, you know. So that's why you find these things in the book of Hebrews. What do you mean God was tempted? What does that mean? What? Jesus really was like, well, I really want to go into that naked bath where naked, hairy men are laying on each other, but I guess I won't. Really? You don't believe that? You're a Christian. You don't believe that. That's why the Jesus' temptation in the wilderness is found in the Synoptic Gospels, but where won't you find it? I'm testing you. Think about it, guys. You, my beautiful viewers. If what I'm saying makes sense of the Jesus' temptation in the wilderness is point to a relic of an older, lower Christology, where would you expect to find it? Where would it be absent from? Use your brains. You've been studying with me for a while now, no? You would say, wait, I don't have to look that up. I should find the temptation in the wilderness in the Synoptic Gospels, earlier texts, or Hebrews, which even predates Mark, and I probably will not find it in the book of John, where we have our highest Christology. Tell them what you want. There you go. You see how it all works? This is a mess. But the idea is, what sells Christianity? Why do people believe in this? Because people feel dirty, sinful, worthless, hopeless, and Jesus is somebody you will never be. And he'll save you from hell, which you are pretty sure you're going to. And people are terrified of dying. People are terrified of dying. You know, people are so frightened of death, because like we're the only creature that knows we're going to die. Almost no animal in the world besides us know that death is waiting for us, right? This is so traumatic that psychologists say that a person cannot even contemplate his own death for more than a few seconds. It's too traumatic. People can contemplate and plan their wills, plan all sorts of things, but can't think about their actual death for more than a few seconds. For most people, it's just they have to stop and change. Why? It's too much. People are mortified by this, no pun intended. And therefore, I need to know that I've got a ticket to heaven. And Jesus is like a really good guy, and he was tempted too, but he did what I could never do. He resisted all temptations. And if I put my trust in, that's where it comes from. It's sweet Jesus, but it's a false ticket. It means you've got something that says you got a ticket to go to heaven, but you know what happens when you come after 120 and you show it? I got my ticket. It's a false ticket. It's a counterfeit. How horrible would you feel if you had someone gave you a ticket to a great concert or show? You had front row seats. You couldn't wait. Whoever was playing Paul McCartney, someone you couldn't believe, right? And then you're waiting in line and you get there and then they look at the barcode. They say, this is a counterfeit. That's what Christianity is. So that's what we're saying. Christianity is promising everything. Whatever you want this, I'll give you that. But it's counterfeit. It's not real. Trust only in the God of Israel. Nothing remotely resembling any of this in TaNaCh. You could do it. Hashem says, turn back to me. I will forgive you. Hashem is completely accessible. Stay away from filthy, dualistic religions. Thank you for your question.
It's funny because we know that. I say we as me as being an ex-Christian. We know that. Not to, we should not just take somebody's word on something, and especially something that's not falsifiable, like you said. I mean, I know for a fact if somebody came up and gave me a bid on roofing my house for $10,000, I'm not going to give them until I see proof of their resistance, they're actually coming back. But in Christianity, you really have to. It's all about
good, William. And what in Judaism? What does the Torah say? Well, so what the Torah says? I'm going to fix you. The Torah is promising things, but what does the Torah say? If you're loyal to me, what will happen? Exactly. It's going to rain when I tell you it's going to rain. When it's supposed to rain. Right? It's going to rain in its proper time. You will defeat your enemies. These are highly falsifiable claims. And if you don't listen to me, you're going to start coughing, meaning you're going to lose battles. When the doctor says to you, who smokes, says, if you keep smoking, you're just going to start coughing, and you're open to everything. Heart disease, cancer, God forbid, right? What happens? You start coughing. The doctor's not worried. He knows if you smoke, it's going to get you. Does smoking feel great? I'm sure. Every puff must give a smoker a tremendous amount of pleasure. But is it killing you? That's all we're saying. Nobody is saying that Christianity doesn't feel good. It feels good at the moment. The Torah is telling you it will destroy you momentarily. Big pleasure. I asked people who I know who are heroin addicts, who were recovered. I said, what is it like to do heroin? They describe it as something unbelievable. What is it like the next day? Horrible. That's all. Mm-hmm. No one is saying I would never try to sell you on the notion that Christianity does not make you feel fantastic and relieve anxiety and depression and make you feel. It does. It's just not real. And you don't want that, do you? Plus, you love Hashem.
Right.
You want to serve Him properly. And what you said, William, brilliant. You want to check it, test it. Torah doesn't talk about all this monkey business. It tells you it's going to rain, not going to rain. You'll defeat your enemies. You won't. You'll be exiled. Torah just says that. Every claim, highly falsifiable. Thank you.
You said something years ago, and this is very just a statement, not a question. You said something years ago that I still just really love to say, that when God promised, you will, to sow your land 6 years, and on the 7th and then the 8th, you said point blank, that's a religion that could only last 6 years, because if He didn't show up, then it would all fall apart. That was brilliant.
Right. Leviticus 25.
Yep.
I mean, who would say that? Or on the high holidays, just come to Jerusalem.
Yep.
Well, what about the enemies? They're going to know that, like, all the men are gone to Jerusalem to offer offering. Don't worry, I'll protect your borders. If you're not God, you better not make promises like that. Because that's a religion that will last for 4 months. Leave the borders?
That's funny.
I mean, literally, Torah says, leave your borders, come to Jerusalem. But then you say, but my enemies are all going to kill us. All the men go. They're temple times. Don't worry about your borders. I'll take care of it. Really? Who wrote that? Whoever wrote that was pretty stupid or pretty confident, right? I mean, that's like insane. On the 6th year, you get triple so that you'll be taking it for the 7th, 8th, and 9th? Whoa. Land rotation makes a lot of sense, but I can think of some really simple solutions, which I'm not the only guy who thought of it, to rotate your crops, to be able to rotate your land. Of course. I would never come with the solution. Don't worry, in the 6th year, you get a 3-fold bounty. Thank you, William.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, moving on to the next caller. Caller, you're live on the air. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from.
Hey, is that me?
You're live on the air. Mr. Robbins, how are you?
Awesome. Oh, yeah. Hey, guys, this is the Rev Robbins over here in North Carolina. Hope you guys are doing well. Rabbi,
you have a Jewish accent a little bit. It bothers me. I'm kidding. Continue. Go ahead.
If you could, Rabbi, just clarify something for me. As a former Christian minister and a Christian for over almost 30 years, I was always taught and under the impression that Sunday was the holy day. And after discovering, your guys' show and learning more about what the Hebrew scriptures say, that it's actually Saturday that's the holy day. And it's always confused me how Saturday went from Sunday. And then if you listen to what Paul says in Romans, he says that all days are holy and no day should be any more important than the next. If you could just explain, I guess, just what is the actual holy day supposed to be, and why did Sunday replace Saturday? So thank you guys so much.
Good question. I'm actually not sure we've ever discussed that on this channel before.
Right.
That'll be great. Okay, Rabbi, go ahead.
Who is responsible for Christianity moving the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday? A little anti-Semite who had a great job. He was the bishop of Antioch. His name was Ignatius. That's it. Same person who came up with the word Catholic. Ignatius, I miss you so much. What a wonderful life what a wonderful world you've created. That means in the 2nd century, Christians were still celebrating on the Sabbath, but Ignatius is the one that's a major part of fueling and moving it. Why? Sunday. You just think this through. Sunday. S-U-N. The sun was behind all the great gods. That's why when you see, pictures, paintings, murals of all the saints, whatever religion, pick it. Greek Orthodox, their icons. What's behind? That's the sun. It's moving. Jewish Sabbath? Done with that. Now, when Paul's saying don't forget about Sabbath, he's not saying forget about Sabbath and therefore do Sunday. Okay? He wasn't that sophisticated at that point. Paul is saying that Jewish laws, traditional laws, ritual laws, meaning Paul was fiercely antinomian rather than pronomian. So Paul just didn't want anyone to feel that they had to keep Sabbath or keep any ritual laws or the new moons or eat kosher or none of that stuff. None of that. Paul's message, which is echoed in Hebrews, is that all those laws, that was only a shadow. The essence is Christ. Colossians 2, 16 and 17. Hebrews 10, 2. Hebrews 8. That's very Pauline. Whoever wrote Hebrews Paul did not write the book of Hebrews, which almost all Christians recognize, but it is very Pauline. It's much more systematically laid out. So Paul is just saying you don't keep any laws. In fact, the stuff that we are told was agreed upon in Acts 15, where Christians who are not Jewish should still not eat from the strangled meat animals that are offered to the sacrifices. Even Paul does away with that in 1 Corinthians 8. Paul is against any Torah, hated it, disgusting. And it's not just for Gentiles. That's what they'll tell you. It's not true. People don't know. Romans 7 is written to Jews, telling them you don't have to keep Torah. It's been made a curse for us. Don't let anybody tell you different. I mean, read it for yourself. That's the whole thrust of Paul. The Torah, the law, it's there. All the point. If you've never been a Christian, you might think that I'm making this up because I'm trying to be create something that's provocative. If you were a Christian, you're going, this Singer guy is presenting Christianity, is characterizing its beliefs fairly, and I am. So the idea of the sun God, and the sun also represented that thing which determined, guided how the years would be calculated, the months would be calculated according to a solar calendar rather than a lunar calendar. But the big thing is the sun god. That's the huge thing. The sun, the lights in the heaven. Jeremiah talks about in chapter 10. He says, don't do what the non-Jews, what the heathens do. They look at the sky for a sign. They become mortified by it, and they take trees, chop them down, bring them into a house, nail it down so it doesn't totter, and they deck it with gold and silver. Don't do any of that stuff. None of that. So the sun in a henotheistic system is behind the whole deal. The sun god is that's the god. Because the sun is the source of everything. It's your source of light, warmth, plants grow, don't grow. The sun is the big power. The only thing about the sun god is he's way too powerful for you. I mean, the sun god is keeping everybody warm and keeping the planet. The sun doesn't have time for your prayers. People didn't pray to the sun, but he's behind the saints, right? But the person who's who's moving Christianity. Now, Christianity always had Sabbatean groups, like, for instance, the Seventh-day Adventist group that emerged after the Great Disappointment in the 19th century. It was only one of many, many cults that emerged after the Millerite groups. Okay? So, but don't think that was the first attempt. The church didn't like it, but there were always Christians who went like, why are we doing this Sunday thing? And try to get it to Saturday. And boy, the church would explode. Whether it was the Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, the Reformers, they hated this. And people died because Christians, full believing Trinitarian Christians. Do you know that in the old days, it's not now, but you guys who used to be Baptists or Assemblies of God, people will know I'm telling the truth. In the old days, when I started doing this, more than 40 years ago, so the evangelicals and the Catholic Church all consider Seventh-day Adventists a cult. There's a book called The Kingdom of the Cults. His name escapes me, the author. It's very famous. It's like, it has all the cults, all the false Christian iterations of Christianity. His name, he's dead now. So he used to have the Seventh-day Adventists in there as a cult. Right? So one of the Millerite groups from that whole nightmare from the 19th century. But because the Seventh-day Adventists believe in the Trinity and believe in pretty much everything else, so they're looking away because the Mormons are a bigger problem and other issues are a bigger problem. So that's where it is. Christians, there were always, in every epoch in history of Christian history, there were always small sects who went, why are we doing Sunday? Why don't we get it back to Saturday? And those groups were always crushed as cults, as heretics, because in the Christian world, the word cult does not mean a psychological cult, but those who believe in Jesus but usually deny his deity, or say that Sabbath is the day of is the day that we shouldn't work. Because if you're saying that then it's works that could save you, then you're as good as the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, so there's your answer. That's the deal. The Torah says the Sabbath is forever. Osi Leolam. Forget me. Look at the Torah. Exodus 31, 16, 17. It's delicious. Forever. Forever, forever, forever. That's it. Those are the poll. Look, I'm not going to say I'm not anti-Christian. I don't have a favorable view of Christianity. But what's really going on here is not that I have, it's just if I've got Moses here and I got Paul here, this is a no-brainer. I'm going with Moses every time. Thank you for your question.
Very good. Walter Martin, I believe is the guy's name.
Walter Martin, right.
Yeah,
that's his name, right.
We bought that book years ago because I was kind of curious too. It's interesting.
Right, so the Seventh-day Adventists, I'm pretty sure the new version of it, at some point I remember they moved the Seventh-day Adventists. Because the Seventh-day Adventists were on the border, all right, but at least they're Trinitarians, unlike the Witnesses that are not.
Wow.
Right, Walter Martin, right.
Good deal. All right, we'll take the next caller. Caller, you're live on the air. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from.
Hey, my name is Sam from Ohio.
Oh, Sam, welcome.
Hey, Rabbi. I'm so happy to talk to you. I look up to you as a father figure and a big brother, and I get so excited over your shows that I scream, and I, do somersaults off my mom's furniture and everything. So I'm very excited to see what you have to say about my question today.
Very good. Go right ahead.
All right. Well, the story of Eutychus in Acts 27 through 12, how Paul was preaching a very long time, and Eutychus fell out of the third-story window, and he died. Something don't seem right about this story. Because of safety, Paul should have told Eutychus not to sit in the window. Was my first guess, but then I looked at it again and compared the photos of ancient Greek homes, and something was off. The third loft would be the roof. The standard Greek home had no window on their roofs. it was either flat or had shingles. Some people say, well, the window was a small opening on the third loft roof that serves as a chimney. No, I think that's false because the Greeks lined the walls with tiles under the plaster. The smoke went up the walls out of the roof. And the question is there anything else in this story that doesn't seem right?
Okay, fair enough question. Go ahead and hang up now and tune in for your answer, okay?
All right.
Thank you for your call.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Could we keep him on? Do we hang on?
I just hung up on him.
Yeah. He was so happy to talk to me. But
yeah, sorry about
that.
Just call me Quick Draw.
Right, so I'm not sure what part he's referring to. I mean, I'm not sure if he's, Acts 27 is about Paul's travels to Rome and the storm at the sea. But I'm not sure specifically what aspect of that, or is he talking about, and Acts 27 goes on to talk about the shipwreck. So I'm not sure what aspect he's picking. Did you pick up on that, William?
I just caught him, all the issues that was coming in the story. It just seemed like he said the story basically didn't seem like it made sense. It was telling a storyline, but he said he went back and was looking at that era, and how could this guy who fell off the roof have even gotten on the roof to begin with, because there was no windows in the houses. He said the story just sounded kind of fishy and wanted to know if there was anything that stuck out to you on the death of this guy, and then whatever happened after that and followed. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's referring to. So maybe if you write an email to me.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not sure I didn't get the question.
Good idea.
So Tovia is single1 at AOL.com. I think we have time for one more question.
Okay, great. Got a caller right now.
Hello.
Caller, you're live on the air. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from.
It's Brian Wilson. I'm calling from Raleigh, North Carolina. I was wondering I was wondering what the rabbi thought of if you take the patriarch names Adam, Seth, Enos, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and Noah, and then you translate them into their meaning. It's man appointed mortal sorrow, but the blessed God shall come down teaching, his death shall bring powerful rest. Have you ever heard that, or what is your...
I certainly have.
Are they being translated correctly?
That's a great question.
I haven't heard that. You've heard that one?
I have, yeah. I'll give you further explanation on it here. Go ahead, if you want to, go ahead and hang up now and tune in for your answer. Thank you for your call. Okay, so that's one of the mysterious things that not really Christians, because Christians don't get much into Hebrew, but the Messianics try to use to further the proof that Jesus was the appointed Messiah is the 10 generations, that each name has a definition or a meaning, and if you read them all in order of each name, then it literally tells a story. It's a storyline that points to Jesus, which he just read in that last part, appointed man who died and whatever the case may be. And so...
But how does Canaan fit into that?
Somehow or another, whatever definitions they've extracted have...
definition work into there.
So...
Meshushelach.
Okay, so...
I don't see that at all.
I'm not sure the best way to...
The next caller.
Okay, very good. I was going to say, if you wanted to, we could just address a few of the names and just to see how well they line up. I do have another show on this one too, so we can also just refer that out. I can put the link in the video description in today's show if you like. So,
how Canaan?
Okay, so...
All right, I don't see that. Anyways, let's go to the next caller.
Okay, that's all right. All right, no caller yet. So, we actually had first time we haven't had a caller all day. So, guys, go to outreachjudaism.org. You'll find the 2-book volume set you see on your screen right now. The CDs are no longer in print, although the audio files on them are. If you go to the website and click on the free audio tab, you'll find matching titles, but it's not matching information. If you've got the books and you've had the books for years, you've never listened to these audio files, you're missing out. It's like Rabbi would say, you're just like kissing God through a towel. In this case, kissing Rabbi Singer through a towel. So anyway, so that's it right there. Outreachjudaism.org. You can also go there to support the work that he's doing right now. And I think there's donate links there, I believe, Rabbi, on your website.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Very good. Okay, that was the last call so far. The phone lines are still open.
All right.
If you want to just call this a wrap.
Yeah, we'll call it a wrap.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, we'll see. Next week we'll be back in the studio at the original time, which is on Sunday, every Sunday from 9:30 to 11 a.m. So, really appreciate your time, Rabbi. Your dedication is
Always
unmatched, no doubt. And so, thank you all tuning in, and we'll see you again soon, God willing. Shalom, shalom. Bye. Shalom, my dear friends. Hope this message finds you well. If you like the way this channel is going, and the channel has been a blessing to you, please consider supporting the channel by going to the website, TaNachTalk.com, TANACHTALK.com. Thank you once again for your time and for supporting TaNaCh Talk. Shalom.